Alright, for today's critical thought, we are talking Dark Souls. If you missed my recent posts on difficulty design, and of course some discussions on Twitter, it seems like every day now someone is declaring something is the new Dark Souls of something else. And for this video, this is basically my official edict that is no longer acceptable. If I had one like those prime minister wigs and a gavel, I would be wearing it right now. But the point is, a lot of people will automatically conflate difficulty with Dark Souls. And that is not the point, or what makes Dark Souls work so well. And for today, we're going to talk about some of the essential elements of what makes a Dark Souls, or if we want to do it, Souls-like experience. So, the first part that makes Dark Souls different from a lot of games is the progression. As we've talked about before, there are two broad forms of progression in game design. You have the abstracted sense, which is character leveling up, unlocking skills, stuff like that. And then you have the player side, learning combos, figuring out attack patterns, stuff like that. And when it comes to the Souls series, it is very much on the side of player skill, but there is still an aspect of abstracted progression. As we've said before, and for any longtime fans of Soulsborne knows, it is really up to the player if they are going to beat the game or not. It doesn't matter how high of a level you are or what your weapons are if you can't figure out exactly how to dodge Ludwig, for instance, in Bloodborne. But the point is, right off the bat, if you're going to have, or what makes a Dark Souls game work, is that it is primarily put onto the player as to whether or not they succeed. This is also why, for the Dark Souls games, at least for number 1 and number 3, you are required to essentially beat one area before you're even given the ability to level up. And the same can even be said of Demon Souls as well. This is to hammer home the point that leveling up is merely an aid. It's not going to save you. And because of that, it's one of the reasons why a lot of expert players can get through the game without needing to spend a lot of time leveling up. We've seen some people do like Soul Level 1 runs, and of course ever popular speed runs as well. But the point is, this isn't like an RPG where I must get to level 60 or I can't beat the final boss. In Souls games, even if I am under level, if I can match the boss and understand how to avoid their patterns, I can usually beat them very easily. Now, another major part of Dark Souls is that everything about the game is usually laid bare within usually the first section or the first hour of play. And this is a very big point. In the Dark Souls games, there's very little in terms of mechanic progression, as in unlocking new abilities or new things that change how you play the game. This is the complete antithesis of metroidvania design, wherein the whole point of the game is that you are changing from beginning to middle to end, and that will affect how you go through the levels. Be it from being able to jump, I just call it double jump, there we go, hanging, infinite jump, blowing up doors, you name it. And when it comes to the Souls experience, or actually one quick aside, I will be talking more about metroidvania design in an upcoming video and post, so be sure to look for that. But in the Souls games, your moveset isn't going to change at all from beginning to end. Yes, you're going to get new weapons and you'll get new spells, but what you're going to be doing in the game is not going to be all that different. The real twist of what's going to happen in a Souls game comes from the enemy designs. Every new enemy institutes a new pattern to learn, a new obstacle in your way, and it's up to you to figure out what you're going to do against it. Be it everything from red-eye knights, those creepy things, I know which one, in Dark Souls 3, wolves in Bloodborne, hunters, you name it. Now, another major part of Dark Souls, and one that really hasn't been, I think, given enough care, or at least enough attention from the circles that I follow, is the level design. The Dark Souls series, and will include again entirety of Soulsborne, has some of the best level designs I think we've seen out of any other game in the action genre. And a part of it is the difference in design philosophy. When we talk about action games, or any game that's built on a level by level format, a level basically works as 2 points. You have your start and your end. And as you're moving from beginning to end, basically the world behind you ceases to matter. You see this in everything from Mario Galaxy, Super Meat Boy, even first-person shooters like Half-Life, Gears of War, and so on. Once I've made it to the halfway point, again, I'm never going to revisit those older parts again. The Souls experience, however, is different. Instead of it being a straight line, it's almost like a ball or some very amorphous thing to describe. But how it works is, yes, there is a beginning, middle, and end point of a level, but you will be revisiting parts of the level frequently as you explore. One part due to the punishment of dying, which we'll come back to in a minute, and one part due to the design of the levels. As anyone who's played a Soulsborne game knows, the most important form of progression when it comes to a stage or an area are the shortcuts. Once a shortcut has been unlocked, be it a tree you knock over, breaking down a door, dropping a drawbridge, you name it, that remains open till the end of time. And what happens is that these shortcuts basically allow you to bypass sections that you've already done. It's akin again to the checkpoint system of older platformers and action games. But the difference is that you're still returning to the start of a level. But how you go through the level on your 5th, 10th, 15th time is going to be different based on what shortcuts or things you've unlocked. Some of the levels or some of the areas feature shortcuts that just completely change the level or open up a brand new path, such as in New Anno Ruins in Dark Souls 1. Man, there's so many really good examples to bring up. The ever popular bridge that completely bypasses the nightmare of the Poison Swamp in Demon Souls. Let's see, anything else that stands out? Or even something as simple as, again, just opening up one random door at the start of the level that completely bypasses the rest of it. And the point is that each level's environment basically takes on a personality in of itself. This is partly due to the environment design, the obstacle design, and of course, the enemies. You will rarely see enemies existing in multiple areas, unless there is a lore-specific reason, such as having knights in the town part of an area, and then you'll fight their stronger brethren in the actual castle. Now, another major part of Dark Souls, as I just said, is the punishment. And this is one of the areas that has always, and again, as we talk about when it comes to difficulty design, has been very polarizing. Dark Souls' punishment mechanic is akin to roguelikes, in the sense that you die, and your progress basically disappears. And I need to take a break for 1 second, but we'll be back after these messages. Alright, and we are back. So, when it comes to the punishment side of the Souls games, it is very much akin to the roguelike experience, as in you die and the world around you gets reset. And normally, again, this is something that we typically see from the roguelike genre, be it a game that you die and you're back at the beginning. But the Souls games always, again, gives you select considerations for what gets preserved. In the as mentioned last section, the shortcuts. And of course, the knowledge. Once you've mastered the game and know what you're doing, starting back at a bonfire is not the end of the world. And for a lot of players, it is key to grinding and gathering resources. During my Dark Souls 3 play, I've done it extensively of telling people that this is a section I would just repeat ad nauseum until I got the needed souls or the gear that I was looking for. But it's one of those very weird things that it's a very punishing system by the fact that you lose your resources. But at the same time, it really isn't, because all you're really losing is time. You're never going to be at the loss of something that is permanent. as in if you die, your gear gets damaged and you must prepare to use it again, or you lose experience, or you lose a level, or anything like that. And because of that quick get up and go feel, it allows the Dark Souls series to keep from becoming too frustrating. You die, and you're typically maybe 3 to 5 minutes away from where you were just at. And thanks to the shortcut system, even if you die at a boss, you're never going to repeat the entire level over again to get back to it. And with that said, though, there's not much else I would consider to be the actual core foundation of the series. I know you're probably waiting for me to talk about difficulty, but difficulty is really not, again, critical to the Dark Souls side of things. Same goes for the lore. As anyone who's played Dark Souls knows, there's an extensive amount of lore hidden in the games, but it's as much a give or take as per the player's interests. If you want to ignore it all, you can do that. If you want to read every line of text on an item and listen to every cutscene and every fan theory, there are certainly options out there. But these elements are more like the icing on the cake rather than the sole experience. But to wrap up today's critical thought, again, when it comes to Dark Souls, the only thing that I've seen so far that is a Dark Souls experience is, of course, Dark Souls itself. And getting the combination of all these elements right and making it still feel right in the player's hands and an approachable but still challenging gameplay takes a lot of design work. And it's why From Software has really, risen up in recent years thanks to the series. And of course, we could even go more detail about the bosses themselves, but good boss design is something that isn't just limited to Dark Souls, and we'll probably come back to that for another time. But for those of you watching this, are there any major elements of Dark Souls that I didn't talk about that you think are there? Or do you have some fond memories of your own Dark Souls experience that you would like to share? Let me know in the comments below, but thank you so much for watching. If you're new, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and check back for daily discussions on game design here, and on Game Wisdom, where we examine the art and science of games. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. For my writings as well as weekly podcasts, check out game-wisdom.com. For ways of supporting Game Wisdom and get access to rewards such as VIP status, as well as voting for the Saturday Night Grab Bag, check out patreon.com/gwbycer. You can follow me on Twitter at gwbycer for my daily thoughts as well as updates as to what's going on. So thanks again for watching, and be sure to check out our next video coming real soon to the channel.